So now that we are done with our background, let's do the foreground. Remember, we have commented out the foreground in here. I'm going to get it back. And in here, remember, we had one div with one street sign. And if we inspect this, this is very simply just a foreground div, a div with a class of foreground. And it is taking 100% of the screen width, and it has one image inside of it. And what we are going to do is, let's imagine this is our viewport and this is our div with our street sign. We're going to animate this from here, from negative 100% or negative 100 VW. And then it's going to pass by, and then it's going to move away until 100% or 100 VW. Or sorry, actually the other way around, from 100% to negative 100%. And we're going to repeat this, and every time we repeat it, we're going to randomize the item that we display. So we're going to play this again from here to here, however, with a different item instead of the street sign. So this is going to be much simpler than the houses. Let's get started, and I'm going to do it in a new file. Let's call it foreground.njs, and let's import it in our index. And I'm also going to paste some stuff here. So in our foreground, I'm going to import street animation. We're going to use it for our duration. And I'm also just going to grab my foreground div, and I'm going to have this function randomize item that is going to grab the image in the foreground, the single image that we have, and it's going to change its source to a random image between these images. So in my folder, I have some images for trees, 6 images for trees, and I have this street sign. So I'm putting our 6 trees, and in between I'm putting my sign. I have the sign here put multiple times so that it has a higher chance of appearing, since we are getting a random item from this array and displaying this as the source of our image. Right? And now let's in here create a function that is going to animate our foreground. I'm going to call it animate foreground. And in here I'm just going to simply create a new animation and store it in constant. Let's animate foreground by calling foreground.animate. And as we agreed, we need to animate from translate x 100% to translate x negative 100%. So in here I'm going to put my first keyframe, transform, and translate x 100%. And I'm just going to duplicate this and animate until negative 100%. For our easing and duration, our easing of course should be linear. For our duration, however, we need our foreground to appear to be moving a little bit faster than the street, since it is closer to our viewpoint. So let's maybe initially just make it the same duration as the street duration. So street animation effect get computed timing duration. And let's see how that is going to look like. But now let's call animate foreground. And when we animate our foreground, as we agreed, we need to repeat this animation again, however with a randomized item. So remember, in our foreground animation, we're going to have this finished promise. So when our animation is finished, let's pass a function here and let's randomize our item, and then animate again by calling animate foreground recursively here. So that should be it. Let's take a look. And it looks like I have an error. I think I just have a typo in my file name. Sorry for that. I'm missing an N here. But now that we have that, as you can see, here is our animation. Every time we should get a random item. We should get a tree and so on. And as you can see, the foreground animation looks a little bit faster than our street animation, even though we are giving the foreground animation the same duration as the street animation. However, Remember, the street animation, the distance that it covers is 100 viewport width. However, the distance that this animation covers is, we move from here and then we go to here. So we move 100 viewport width, 200 viewport width. So we cover double the distance that the street animation covers, and therefore it appears faster than the street animation. If you would like to make it look as if it's moving at the same speed as the street, we can just divide this by 2. Multiply this by 2. And now, as you can see, it should look as if it is moving at the same speed as the street. However, this is not what we want. We need it to move a little faster. And just by trial, I found that maybe 1.4 would look fine. So this is how it should eventually look like. Right? And that should do it for our foreground. Why don't we do one more thing in this video? Remember, in here, when we click on the space button on our keyboard, we should start and stop our animation. So why don't we do that? Remember, in our index.js, we already have a function to pause and a function to play. I am going to create a new variable, isPaused. It's going to keep track of whether we are playing or pausing the animation. And I'm also going to create a function. I'm going to call it init, and I'm going to pause the animation at the beginning by default. So in this function, I'm going to loop through all of our animations. And I'm going to call pause. And then I'm going to call this init function. And later we're going to do other stuff in this init function as well. However, now we can add an event listener on the window to listen for a key down event on the space button. So let's add an event listener. Let's add key down here. And in here, we're going to get an event, and this is going to contain the button that we pressed on the keyboard. So let's actually console log this event. If you go here and click on the space button, we're going to have this event. And in here, we're going to have key, and key is going to be equals to this space. So we can check for that. We can check if event.key is equals to space, like so. If so, we're going to check if our animation is already paused. We are going to play it. And then we're going to change isPaused, set it to false. However, if it is not paused, we're going to pause it, and we're going to change isPaused to true. And this should work. However, we're going to have a problem. So if we go back here, if we press on space, it's going to pause, play, and so on. However, if we pause the animation ourselves using the space button, and then if we unfocus from the window by maybe clicking here on this developer tools, and then focus again, it is going to play even though we have paused the animation ourselves using the pause button. And this is of course because we are having an event listener here. When we focus, we're going to play our animation. However, we need to check here first if we are pausing the animation by clicking on that space button. So if isPause is set to true, we're not going to do anything, right? So now if we play our animation, focus away and then focus back to our animation, it's going to resume. However, if we pause the animation, focus away and focus back, it is going to stay paused. All right. That's it for this video. Let's carry on in the next video and work on accelerating and decelerating our scooter.